Okay, keep your fingers crossed that the audio on this video does not get garbled. And what were they thinking? What's going on with Carter? Will he get through his issues? Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books and we talk about books. No special effects, no D music, none of that fancy schmancy stuff going on here. Please check out my If Thens on Fridays. We got a little carried away. Recently with Halloween, we did horror and thriller and suspense, and then we got into some cozies. And don't forget Flashback Mondays, where I talk about all the books in my favorite Romantic Times book review magazine. Sometimes I do up to 80 an episode. So anyways, this showed up the other day, and I just had to get into it. The last book ended on a cliffhanger. And the one thing I should have done, just one second here. I can't even spell now. Is she doesn't list the reading order in the beginning of her books, and she really should. So we are doing Baskets and Beignets. This is book 27 in the Fortune Mystery series. The first one is Louisiana Longshot and Lethal Bayou and Swamp Sniper and Swamp Team. And it goes through each one. And there's about 13 or 14 books in the original first half that constituted Fortune's original storyline. Now we're moving on to additional storylines. So Fortune is a former CIA person who is hiding out in Sinful. She, assassinated a guy with her stiletto. And I think that's what it was. And she's hiding out in Sinful. And she's met Ida Bell, who is the leader of the Sinful Ladies and often referred to as the Geritol Mafia. To qualify for membership, the husband has to be dead for 10 years to deprogram them from that silly man thinking. Gertie is her best friend. Carter is her love interest. She's also sheriff, or deputy sheriff, or soon-to-be sheriff. That's in resolution right now. Robert E. Lee is the very old sheriff who gets mentioned briefly in this book. Celia Arsenault is the enemy and president of the Godwives, and the mission of the God's Wives is to get back at the Sinful Ladies. It's just what they do. Myrtle Thibodeau is the night dispatch, and she works in the office. Walter is Ida Bell's husband, and he owns the general store. We see a little bit of him in the beginning. Allie is Celia's niece, but she's also Fortune's best friend and a really good baker. Emmeline is Carter's mom. Ronald is her gay next-door neighbor who has fashion sense, so that when they want a fancy dress or fancy dress buying for some of the books, they go to him. Hot Rod Hank is where Ida Bell buys all her cars. Shadow Chaser is the desk clerk at the Bayou Inn. And Manny is now the new manager and owner of the Bayou Inn. What is going on here? I hope you can still see me. I hope you can still hear me. So, we start this book off. We should really get back to Swamp Spies. What is going on here? Sorry for this. Swamp Spies. Okay. So, the last couple of books, and you really should read from the beginning to get the storyline. But the gist of it is, Carter had gotten called away on a mission. He used to be in the military. So he got called away on a mission. And he went on the mission, and the mission went 6 ways to Sunday. So Fortune and her guys, Fortune and Harrison, and Idabel and Gertie went over and rescued Carter. In the meantime, they ran into Fortune's father. And I have got to sneeze my brains out. Just excuse me 1 second. Like I said, no special editing here. So, they went over and ran into Fortune's father, which he's been presumed dead too many times to count. And they discovered that the operation going on was a little bit on the illegal side. So, at the end of this book, we have some information. There's trouble over that situation in Iran, he said. The DOD investigation has forced Colonel Kitts into a corner, and he's flinging mud every direction he can. You, Harrison, and Carter are going to need lawyers. This is going to get ugly. I'll send you everything I know. So, that's how we basically ended this book with trouble. So that's how we basically started this book with the trouble. The scene in the beginning, these books will make you laugh so effing hard. Let's see if I can get this one little chapter going. Somebody, let Skinny's dogs out. Now, Skinny is a really big guy, but, someone else let his dogs out. Where is that page? Alright, so they're in the park, and we're just going to read a little of this. They're in the park, and I spoil everything about the books but the whodunit, but I'm not even going to get that far in this book. But they had chickens out because it's Easter weekend. She says, Wednesday was the day I found out that chickens are into Easter as much as religious folks. I suppose it made sense given all those dyed eggs, in a cannibalistic sort of way, but the rabbit has always gotten all the attention for that holiday. I assumed it was because they were cute and fuzzy and looked better wearing bows than chickens did. And people and pets look cuter wearing the rabbit ear headbands than they did wearing chicken ear headbands. We get into that. So we had, somebody opened the gate on Skinny's dogs, and someone else opened a gate on some chickens. Someone opened my back gate, but those chickens were already gone. I let the dogs out for their afternoon constitutional like I always do. And the next thing I knew, I look out the front window and there's a flock of chickens running past my house. I figured it would be a problem because it's not like a hound is going to clear a 6-foot fence. And even though they're good diggers, they couldn't have dug their way out that fast. But apparently someone left his gate open. They came from the south past my house. Only guy up there with that many chickens is Flint Parson. I was afraid you were going to say that. I've never heard of him, I said. You never do, Skinny said, until you do. And then he'll be stamped in your mind forever. Since that statement applied to many sinful residents, I was almost afraid to ask, but curiosity always got the better of me. So what's the deal? He's a prepper, with strong feelings about people as species. He thinks the earth is flat and Christ returned a couple of decades ago and forgot to whisk him up. That would be up in the spaceship. Flint lives in a big clearing in the woods and pretty much refuses to leave his house, because that's where he built a landing strip for when they rescue him. So, it really gets funny. I don't want to, it really gets funny. So then, we get into this lady shows up at her house after all this event. She had her son is dying. He needs a new liver, which is also a good story on General Hospital recently. And he's going to die. He's only 10 years old. And she had a one-night stand 10 years ago. And then she reconciled with her then to be husband, and she never gave it another thought until her son needed the liver transplant, and the husband was tested, and it was determined he was not the kid's biological father. So now they have to find this guy that she had the one night stand with. And she's done some research and determined that the guy is in prison for a murder he didn't commit. How does she know he didn't commit the murder? Because she was with him in a motel room at the time of the murder. And because the small town is ruled by a ruling family, they just framed this guy for the murder, arrested him, put him in jail, and let it go at that. No one ever decided to investigate the hotel for receipts or find out who the woman was or find out who the no investigation was done at all. So Fortune gets involved, and we have some really seriously funny situations in the book. And it's just, you just have to read, and I'm anxious to get on to the next one. March Madness. So we'll get into that. I forgot to bring it over here. I have it because I was so busy with Swamp Spies and Big Basket Beignets. But it's a really good book. And if you're still here, let's just finish this. The ladies appeared to have wrapped up the egg hiding and were heading for their cars. Walter and I figured that was our cue, so we folded our lawn chairs, and I was just about to go toss mine in the bed of the truck when I heard yelling ridiculously loud and completely out of place, squawking and barking. And that's when she saw the dogs run by. My speed was limited as I had to keep one hand over my face as I went. The chickens would run and then launch upward in their panic, and their claws scratched my arm. I was within a couple of feet of one of the hounds and about to make a dive for him when the chickens suddenly changed trajectory. The birds and the dogs were way quicker turning than I could manage, so by the time I slid and pivoted, I had lost ground. The hounds were only inches from conquering their prey when I heard someone whistle. I looked over and saw Gertie standing on top of the slide holding a Subway sandwich, and she gets the dogs with the sandwich. These are so funny, and the mystery is good. We catch up on old friends, and some people come after Carter and Fortune because of the military thing. There's an obsessive stalker in town going after Fortune and Carter. It's a really good book to find out if the kid gets his liver, if they're able to talk with the father and get him to get tested and see if he's willing to give up part of his liver, and the rest of the stuff. You just have to. I can't help it. I really like this book. So she comes and she tells them all that, and it's just awesome. It's just such a good book. I could sit here and read the whole thing to you, like we could do a reading day or something, but we'll have to see one day. But we'll have to, the murder mystery around who actually killed this woman it's twisted. The finger gets pointed at a couple different people. It reveals so much more. They have to contact Casey, their detective in New Orleans, who ends up finding out that the FBI is involved, and there's a bigger thing coming also. And then with the military, with Carter and Fortune and the rest of the people, it's a multi-layered, multi-plot book. The storyline is ongoing, and we'll just have to keep reading to find out what happens next. It's awesome. And to see Manny and Shadow Chaser again, to see Emmeline, how much she likes Fortune for her son. She helps out on the case. She gives out some clues. So if you could please hit the like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this book as much as I did. Have a good one.